What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Chris's Custom Collectables. My name is Chris Stanley, and today we are going to be pimping out a Jakks specific armored Batman. This is the one I've been wanting to do for a very long time. As far as I know, none of these are in Australia. I have searched high and low, Target, Big W, Toys R Us, everywhere online. None of these seem to be in Australia, just him and what's left of him. So anyway, I did find a website based in Australia that does import these in, so I managed to snag him for, I think it was like 40 bucks. It's still a lot of money, but I was so desperate for him because look at him. You can just tell right away there is just so much potential with this figure. And this is what Chris's Custom Collectables is all about, you know? You take stuff that looks ordinary and make it extraordinary. We'll try to, anyway. Now, first things first, look at this pose. This is just kind of awkward. He's just like... So until I take him apart, which is the first step, I don't know exactly how I'm going to go about changing and modding the joints. I do want one leg up as if it's resting on something because I am going to be making a base like this guy here, but it's going to be a bit more dynamic. I'm thinking a rooftop, have it all, you know, wet and saturated like it's been raining like from the film. I'm not going to be repainting the whole suit. I'm just going to be dry brushing and doing some washes within the armor because we've got all the scratches and I want that to be picked up. There's the bat symbol here that has not been painted black. Naughty naughty. I'll be painting that black and going in with the undersuit and doing some work on that to texturize it and make it look like, you know, the bodysuit when I do up those Jakks specifics ones there. The hands, I think I'm going to do the same route that I did with the Stormtrooper. I'm going to heat them up and glue them and, you know, make them a clenched fist. Now, as for the helmet, I am, and I emphasize the word am, going to try and make the eyes light up with an LED strip or something. I'm not making any promises. It needs to be logistically, you know, doable. So we do have some room in there because it is hollow. I will be, you know, repainting the mouth. The traditional Affleck stubble, I will be replacing the cape, of course, because look at that and it makes my blood run cold. Oh. So like all custom collectibles, the first step is to take it apart. Okay, over the last 24 hours, a lot has happened and changed, and I'm going to go over it every single step of the way. So, as you can see here, I've ground away some of the shoulder armor there to make it a bit more flush with the actual socket joint. Now what I did was I ground off the socket that, you know, sticks in place, because like I showed you guys, the hands were way too close together like that, so I had to kind of grind away some excess to bring it out like so. And this hand is going to be placed just behind his thigh, and it's going to be holding a Kryptonite spear. That's right, I'm going to try to attempt to recreate the Kryptonite spear, and he's going to be holding it this hand. And I'll just show you guys this. It was an absolute bitch to get the boot off the rest of the leg, and reason being is usually, you know, on the Jakks specific regular Batfleck, there's screws in the back of the boots and it, you know, lifts straight out. But as you can see here, there are no screws whatsoever. It's been glued and locked in place over the upper thigh. So it was an absolute bitch to get off. It was a lot of hot, you know, boiling water to loosen it up, but I finally got it off and ground it away, because what I want is this leg up and this guy just slots in place like that after some grinding away. And it will be glued in place, and I'll get some filler, some Bondo filler. You see that just dremeled away the excess. So I want him leaning on some rubble or a rooftop, something to that effect, holding the spear in this hand. And this hand I will make into a clenched fist, and it's going to be resting on the top of his thigh. Now, I ratted my brain to try and find a really good pose. Unfortunately, it's not the pose I wanted, but logistically this is going to work the best. I can only do so much with this type of plastic, and, you know, in terms of moving it and trying to recapture a certain pose, and sometimes you just got to, you know, let it go and settle on something. So I am pretty happy with this. So our next step is to attach the leg, fill it in, blend it in, And I'm going to leave gluing this guy on till last because I still need to gain access inside there if I do go the route of putting an LED bulb, say here, so for when the head pops on, we can have those eyes glowing. So next step is attaching this leg, making it a bit more, you know, realistic looking. We're going to clench this fist up. I'm also just going to close the index finger and the thumb together so, you know, you can put the spear in there. That looks so dirty. Okay, so here's the leg all glued in place. I did have to use that Selly's primer pen and the glue kit that you guys have seen in my previous tutorials. Because this is polypropylene, regular glue such as Loctite here will not adhere to it. First you need a primer, and the reason why I've got a rubber band around here is because I had to glue the seam up the back here because that cracked a bit trying to get this fucking leg off yesterday. I'm gonna let this sit for a couple of hours, and then all I'm doing in terms of filling in is just filling in the front here. The sides are fine. They can, you know, stay as is for now. And then the next step is to make this fist here, that'll focus, a clenched fist. Now this is actually a different material. This isn't polypropylene, so Loctite will work perfectly in this case. I've already gone ahead and done this hand. This is the hand that's gonna have the Kryptonite spear, but the other hand I'm gonna make an actual clenched fist, so we'll see how we go. Okay, the clenched fist there was a complete success, nice and easy to glue together. I may, it does have some restricted movement when you try and turn it at the joint here, but overall guys, I'm really excited about this guy. Like it's turning out a lot better than I expected. So that gives you an idea how this arm's gonna rest and the spear's gonna be kind of behind him. So it's like as if he's kind of waiting for Superman to arrive. So in terms of, you know, reconstructing that's my bird Bingo, by the way. He makes weird noises this time of day. In terms of rejigging the figure, everything's done. I've just got to go in here. I'll just zoom in on that actually. I've just got to go in here and just patch up that little hole there because that just doesn't look right. It won't look right once the figure's all weathered and finished up. So this is the stuff I used on the first order Stormtrooper, and it's pretty much just cut a piece off, mush it together, and that's when it starts to set. And it's kind of like clay. And you just mold it, sculpt it in there, and then when it's done you can sand it, and I'll just be painting it with a flat grey to match the rest of the suit. And then after that, it's time to paint. Now I just mixed some grey and black student acrylic paints together to try and blend in this filling into the armor. So far so good. There are some areas where, you know, the grey does want to pop through from mixing the paints up, but overall, just blend it in a bit there. I think that's pretty good. It's not going to be a major issue, to be honest. Like once we start painting and weathering the armor, your eyes are going to be taken away from that area. And look, already your eyes are taken away from that area now, pretty much. Once it dries, once that gloss goes away, I think we'll be pretty good. Okay, painting the armor is pretty simple. It's only 2 easy steps, actually 3. So we're just gonna get some black shoe polish. I'm just gonna squirt it into this bowl here. We just got ourselves a nice cheap disposable brush. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. And all you're gonna do is evenly apply it all over the armor. And then what we're gonna do is let that dry. And once it's dry, just like the Jakks specific Batfleck and Superman, we're gonna wipe off the excess with a warm scourer sponge. And whilst that's drying, we're just gonna be doing the exact same method for the utility belt. Alright geeks, now all of the armor pieces have been weathered and painted, and I am very, very happy with this result. It's just the perfect look that I was going for. And I even went and dry brushed some of the silver over the actual batsuit, the undersuit, because it just kind of makes it look like chainmail, and I really dig that look. So, you know, you guys can go that route if you like. In terms of the fins that are on the shins and the forearms, let me get that to focus. That was just repainted with Model Masters Gold and then just a flat black dry brushing. So if you guys feel that I'm skipping some parts or not showing some parts, it's not as if it's unintentional. It is intentional, because if you guys have been following my series, you guys should know now how, you know, I sort of roll when it comes to this type of stuff. And sometimes things don't really need explaining. It's just common sense. I'm not going to show you the figure assembled. I want to leave it for a big reveal because I'm very excited about this one. The helmet especially, I think, just came out perfectly. So I obviously have cut out the eyes, because the next step is going to be wiring up the LED. And my plan of attack is the bulb is actually going to be sticking out of here. So once you pop the head on, it's just like a lamp. It's just going to illuminate inside that helmet and make those eyes glow. As you can see, I've got his 5 o'clock shadow all done. Again, I don't really need to show you guys. If you guys want to go back to my regular Batfleck Jakks Pacific tutorial, I use the exact same method. You know, it's just airbrushing some brown on there, getting a scourer sponge and gently wiping away the excess, and then going back in with a Tamiya flat black for the actual 5 o'clock shadow. So as far as I'm concerned, that is done, and I'm very, very happy. Jakks Pacific make beautiful looking figures. The form is there, just, you know, the little bit of TLC. You know, that's what the purpose of these videos are. We're making these look like, you know, several $100 figures. Now, I didn't use any Model Masters Gold on the utility belt. I just went in with the shoe polish and a little bit of a black wash from the Tester's Creator Effects range. So as far as I'm concerned, that is done. So with that being said, I'll show you guys how I've wired up the LED bulb. It's very simple, and yeah, it only costs like $5. Okay, so here's the setup for the LED bulb, and it's seriously so simple. Now we've got a AA battery pack, positive and negative wire. We do have a resistor, because this is too much battery power for one little bulb. If we would just wire this straight up to the battery pack, this would burn out very quick, so we do need a resistor. It doesn't really matter which prong you solder it onto on the LED bulb. I'm going to solder it onto the positive, which is the longer prong. And that's pretty much it, guys. Like, it's seriously so simple. This all cost me $5. You know, you got a whole pack of these in case you screw it up. You can grab another one. So I've got my lead solder here and soldering iron there. Now you don't really need to see me solder it together. It's pretty damn simple. Okay, a massive change of plans with getting these eyes to illuminate, geeks. Originally, you guys saw I had one LED bulb that I was gonna have poking out here. Once the helmet goes on, theoretically it should illuminate inside the helmet. Well, it didn't illuminate enough, it didn't look good, it looked cheesy. So this is the next option, and actually Dad came up with this, and my dad is a genius. This here is an LED torch you get from Bunnings Warehouse, Home Depot, costs a couple of bucks. What we did is you obviously screw the end off, and we utilize this section here and wired a positive and negative wire up to the end. And you know what? It works perfectly, like spot on perfectly. That's the lens there, or the glass that comes with it, but I sandpapered it with a fine grit sandpaper just to soften the light of the LED bulbs. They will then be soldered up to this AA battery pack. Now, if you see the inside of the helmet here, it is white. I did have to paint the inside white so the light reflects a lot better, because it was just a dull grey in there. You learn a lot of stuff about light when you're trying to work out something like this. So the inside has to be white so the light does reflect and bounce off all areas inside the helmet to really illuminate those eyes. So the plan of attack, as you can see there, I've dremeled and bored out a hole the exact same circumference as the tip of the LED torch bit here, and the wire is going to run through the torso, out the back, down the back leg here, and it's going to be stored, the power pack will be stored in a little wooden crate that I'm going to have on the base. Now there's a whole segment for the base, so don't worry about that, I still have to get to that. There's a lot of explaining to do with the base, but this is the next best thing in terms of illuminating the eyes, guys. This, it's at the stage now where I don't want to show you guys, you know, certain things, because I want the reveal to be, you know, absolutely amazing, because I'm really happy with this. I think this is probably one of my finest custom collectibles. I'm really excited about it. So now it's kind of like keeping it a secret and teasing you with bits and bobs. So I still have to go over the armor with some light gloss spray paint, because this is a setting where he's going to be in the rain, like from the film. So it makes sense that the armor has a bit of a gloss sheen to it. Plus it brings out those details on the paint job a lot more. As you can see there, it's just got a nice texture to it, as well as the undersuit. So that's it in terms of illuminating the eyes, guys. Now let's get to the cape. All right, geeks, now it's time for the cape. Now, this fabric here is part wool, part polyester. To me, it's a near dead-on match to the screen use cape on the mech suit. Now, just to let you know, this stuff is not cheap. It's $30 a meter. I got 2 meters just in case. It seems to drape really well. It's got that crude, just ugly texture to it that the mech suit cape has. Now, this template here, if stuff blows away, forgive me, it's quite windy out here at the moment. This is the template. Whoop, there it goes. Goodbye. There it goes. So this is the template that goes around the neck. So this is the back of the neck where the armor is. I've made some measurements here. So this is 5.5 centimeters and 9 centimeters here. This point here is the point where it starts to protrude from the actual armor, whereas this piece tucks in, under, and around those little loops that you've seen on the regular Batfleck and the Superman Jakks Pacific figures. Now, this is the full template here that wants to stay in place that I used. Now, this isn't the final cape. I just made another one to show you guys it all sprawled out. Make sure when you do cut it, you cut it quite crudely along here, because then we have to go in and weather all the edge. And to weather the edges, I just sprayed it with some white, or it's an off-white spray paint, and then went in with some red oxide, just a student acrylic, and just dabbed it with a brush, like dry brushed it just on the edges and really, really roughed it up. And the end result? Well, what do you think it looks like? Okay, so here's the end result. I've already gone ahead and tucked it inside the armor. It's been glued in place. I had to use hot glue because for some reason the Loctite didn't really want to adhere the fabric together. So like I said, it goes in and loops around the little screw bolt hinge thing. So that's not going anywhere. I obviously do have to fuss with it a little once the whole figure is put together. But as far as I'm concerned, very happy with this cape. Now let's see how the weathering went. As you can see, that's just the off-white Rust-Oleum spray paint and then the red oxide down the bottom just to really have it all frayed and nasty. This is going to match up with our base. Now, like I said, I will be getting to the base at the end of the video, and I actually used leftover from weathering the base, because it's supposed to be, you know, dirty old rooftop. What I had left over, I put on the boots because it makes sense, because you're going to be up on that roof. It's supposed to be raining. Everything's going to be, you know, soiled and muddy, and it just makes sense to have a bit of dirt on the boots. So guys, when you're doing stuff like this, it's all about realism. We've got to make something unrealistic looking look realistic. So, alright guys, it's time to put the LED bulb into the torso. Now, I did say that I was originally going to have the wire running out the back, down the back leg, and into a little crate that's going to be on the base, but change of plans. This is my new plan. This is the final plan. You can see I've dremeled out a hole in the back of the armor, and it's pretty much just going to rest right in the back, in the torso where the on and off switch is. So rest it in like that. Bob's your uncle. Obviously not that messy. And then we're just going to glue the actual bulb into the groove that I've dremeled out, and then we're just going to glue the bulb in here like so. I'm not going to glue it to the other side, just glue it in here, so if time does come to change the batteries, I can easily take these two apart. Now, to glue this in place, because this is polypropylene, we do need that primer pen again and that special Selleys glue. So with that being said, I'm going to quickly put the camera down, do this, and show you guys the end result. And there you have it. That took all but 2 minutes, guys. I just got some electrical tape to tape the battery pack in place, because again, if it does come to the point where I have to change the batteries, I can't have this permanently fixed in place, otherwise I'm screwed. So the glue is starting to set. I'll leave that for about an hour, and then of course we just pop this back on here like so, and there you go. So just carefully pop this over, and voila! We have light! Okay, now that that step is complete, I'm going to put him back together. I'm not going to show you guys just yet. Then we're going to move on to the Kryptonite spear. Then I'm going to explain how I made the base from start to finish, and then we're done. Okie dokie, it is time to make the Kryptonite spear. Now there's not a lot of reference out there at the moment in terms of what the spear looks like, so I kind of just had to wing it, so to speak. So what you see here is aluminium tubing that I got from Bunnings Warehouse. Now what I did is I used a pipe cutter, and this is two different sizes. This is the ribbed parts here are a larger size pipe, and the in-between parts, the smooth parts, are one size down. Now what I did was I went in with a pipe cutter and cut the individual pieces, and you can see the rib sections here. That's actually just going back in with the pipe cutter and just making little notches to make it look like a grip. Now this here was originally off a faucet from the plumbing section. It's like a plastic bolt thing that you use for waterworks and all that jazz. So it's crudely been put together, but you know, this is the best I can do at the moment. So all these guys will slot in together, and I'll just glue them together with some Loctite, and then that baby will go on top, and this is what's going to house the Kryptonite crystal. Now, how are we going to do that? Very easy. This is a resin that actually sets crystal clear. You can get Bee Queen, but it does have more of a champagne color. I want this crystal clear because I want it to be transparent, and this is just a green dye. What is it here? Alumite green dye. Okay, so this isn't from Barnes, but the people recommended this because this leaves a transparent look, which is something that Kryptonite has. It has that transparent look. It's not a solid green. So what we're going to do is mix a small batch of this up. The ratio is 1 to 1, 100 to 100. A tiny bit of this. You just need a droplet of this to mix it in so we can make it transparent. And then we're going to pour it into this cylinder here. This actually used to house the filler compound that I filled the knee joint in for Batman. So what we're going to do is fill it in here. I've just got some blue tack and it's just resting on a plastic cup at the moment. Once that's set, I will remove it from the mold, and then we can grind it down with a bench grinder and then go in with a Dremel and detail it and make it look like that spearhead. It's going to be glued on here. The rest of the spear will be one solid color of silver with some washes of brown and black, just to give it that old used dirty look. And then theoretically, we should have a Kryptonite spear, guys. So let's give it a whirl. I don't know how well this is going to work. So yeah, shit. Okay, this is all glued together. Now I know I said I was going to use this black faucet thing here, but I wasn't feeling it. So this is actually the top of some PVA glue, and it just happened to fit perfectly flush with the tip of the spear, and it just complements the rest of the stuff really well. So I've glued this in place, and then the Kryptonite crystal will be housed in here. So I'm going to let this dry properly. It's all been glued together. So now it's time to cast up the Kryptonite rock itself. Okay, whilst we're waiting for that resin to cure for the Kryptonite rock, I went ahead and spray painted the spear itself black, just with Rust-Oleum. It also acts as a primer. So now that it's dry, I'm going to go in with some Model Masters silver, and we're just going to dry brush the entire body. Okay, apologies about the shitty lighting just then. I'm kind of trying to work indoors, so I don't know if it's going to rain. But here's the end result after dry brushing that Model Masters silver onto the actual stem of the spear. So look guys, considering I had no reference material and just finding parts like, you know, the top of PVA glue, like the lid, you know, it's worked out well. So as far as I'm concerned, the stem is done. And with that being said, let's crack open the casting of the Kryptonite rock. Okay, so I've cracked the main casting out of the mold. And what I also did is I did an alternate casting. Now you see, this is a lighter shade of green and a much more Kryptonite looking green. And all I added was food coloring to the resin. Now I'm really happy with this. The only thing is the amount of air bubbles in there. But I think this is the one I'm going to use on the spear. As you can see, I've already started to sort of grind away where it's going to slot into the the top of the spear. I'm just going to use a bench grinder. You guys don't need to see me do that. You know how that goes. Just use a bench grinder and shape it and make it a spearhead. Okay, so you guys can clearly see that I went with the second option. It's funny, this was my original intention, you know, this was the original idea and concept. This was going to be the final casting, but at the last minute, at the last minute I decided to add a bit of green food coloring to a spare batch I had. And there's the end result. So this is the one I'm going with, guys. It has been glued in place, just using some Loctite. So what I'm going to do, because of those air bubbles, I'm just going to go back over it with some green food dye, just paint it over the surface and then seal it up with a gloss clear coat. And that should make it a bit more crystal-like. Alrighty geeks, here is the base. Now you're probably thinking, when the fuck did he do that? He didn't explain it. Don't worry, I'm gonna explain in depth right now how I made this base. So for starters, this whole area here is just a wooden jewelry box you can buy from Bunnings Warehouse in the crafts section. The base here is just some MDF board that I just stuck the two together. This here, the actual surface is just some sandpaper that I glued down. Now before I glued the sandpaper down, I did prime the whole surface with a grey primer. That kind of just leaves like a base colour that you can work with, so it's kind of like concrete. Also in the back here, originally I was going to have the battery pack for his eyes hidden in this box. It was going to run down his leg, but then I figured the wire would be exposed because the cake kind of drapes around, the back of the leg is exposed. And yes, that is a question mark there. Kind of a little tip to the hat, if you know what I mean. This is all made out of balsa wood, just craft balsa wood. I just thought I'd throw it together, just like it's a pile of shitty lumber or something, and then there's an old box. So his back leg is going to be standing on this. And then we move around to the front again. You see we've got some vines here. These are just little vines or roots that I found in my front yard that I thought I'd glue on as a little throwback to poison ivy. We also have this little newspaper article here that I printed off from Google. Even though this newspaper article is from Batman Begins, I've made it so you can't really see what's going on, just like mushed it into the ground. Because again, it is supposed to be like it has just stopped raining on this rooftop. As you can see here, this is just some clear resin that I poured in here to make like a little puddle. And this is the foot peg where his foot will slot onto. It's just a screw thread you can buy from Bunnings. I just drilled it through the actual jewelry box and screwed it in place. We've got the little stove pipe thing here. It's actually just a copper pipe. This is copper here that was cut in a circle, split halfway down the middle as you can see here, and then I shaped it from there. It was just glued in place with some Loctite. Now to achieve all the random bits of dirt and mud and gunk is by mixing some PVA glue and some dirt from our front yard, backyard, driveway. I was able to just mush it all over randomly, just like it's fresh mud, it's on a rooftop, it's been raining, and that kind of kept the gloss. Now the bricks on the side are just pieces of balsa wood, actually the same gauge balsa wood here for the bits of random lumber. They were just glued on like so, and then I chipped out certain parts. You can probably see a little J there in the concrete. There's a little throwback to the Joker. And then I just went in with some student acrylics, like some brown and some greys and whites, and dry brushed it all around the bricks. And again, just like weathering the top part, I did go around the sides with the dirt and PVA glue mixture. Kind of semi-render the bricks, but also make them a bit dirty because you don't want them looking too clean because it's not going to match the top of the roof. Now guys, all up, this took me about 2 days to do. I was constantly fiddling, changing things, and it just kind of struck me that a rooftop setting would seem much more appropriate than like a rocky setting. Because you think about it, he's wearing the regular bat suit in amongst rubble at the end of the film, whereas on the rooftop he has the mech suit. So it makes sense to have a rooftop setting, and it's kind of like he's waiting on the edge for Superman with his Kryptonite spear. Now the way the balsa wood was weathered was just by using some black ink and some brown shoe polish, just certain washes until I got this desired look, which I'm very happy with. The inside's clean, but you're not going to see that, so that just rests right there. So finally, once all of this was complete, I then gave it 5 coats of gloss just to make it seem wet, muddy, and like I said, like it's just stopped raining. Especially the newspaper article here, this has picked up a very nice sheen. I'm very happy with that. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm only going to show you this angle, is show you how he slots on. So there is a hole in the bottom of the foot there that I drilled in, and he just slides on like that, and he's on, rested in place, and look at that, beautiful. Now that I've shown you guys that, it is finally time for the reveal. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I am absolutely and utterly over the moon with the end result of this guy. This is probably my most favorite custom collectible to date. To me, this episode truly emphasizes Chris's custom collectibles when you take something ordinary and make it absolutely extraordinary. If you had any questions, queries, anything you're unsure of about this tutorial, please drop a comment below and I will try my best to get back to you as soon as possible. As always, thank you very much for your continuing support and watching, and until next time, Geeks, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.